So
You see herself nicely.
Do you want to center the camera up?
We need to get the camera on first before we worry about stuff. There we go, video. Oh,
you
now,
want to sit up there
yeah,
and
could
we
you sit up there, yeah. Now we can send the camera.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's good.
That's actually pretty good, yeah.
Of us.
To me, it's right on.
You're happy with it? Let me quickly say something to my sister. Geeta,
Okay.
Geeta, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
That food was so well received last night.
Yes, thank you, Gita.
We had it last night and everyone loved that chutney. Everything was so delicious. And you know I love your doll.
We seem to have a video issue. Hey, are you guys,
Thank you so much. I'm grateful for this seva.
Very good question. We could just take it over there and then move it back over here. I mean, that's all that, we're not real highly technically efficient here. So we could take it over there and Brahmadas would have to take the this too, because it's corded, or just let them hear what they hear. Okay.
okay, let's ask Gita how she's seeing me up there, because it looks like there may be still a
I
problem.
think there's a problem with that.
There's a gray spot.
Look.
Patch.
This, right here.
Oh, okay.
Now I can see the logo.
Okay.
Okay.
Now you can see the logo.
Gita, how's the video looking? Can you see me?
Swamiji, I cannot see you, no.
I know. Give me a minute. Our camera is not doing its great job. I think we need a new camera. Yeah, I know. I agree. We just need to get a new one.
Yeah.
There it is. It needs
I
to
can
be
see
hooked into-
Brahmanandaji now.
Okay.
That's who you're gonna
We're good.
see right now.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Do we have good video
Angle
now?
it down a little. That's good.
We good? Good.
It's flashing in and out. I mean, it's as it's gonna get. We need to get a new camera.
Okay. I
Because it's
think that's as
flashing.
good as it gets. That's as good as it gets.
I didn't know it was doing that till I hooked it up yesterday. Apologies for the flashing thing. I think it's the camera, y'all. But I've checked all the connections. I'm gonna recheck the connections. Apologies.
That's not gonna go there. That's not gonna go there.
Oh, no, you play?
There's two sentences at the top. Would you open to reading and clear, please? Would you read this sentence?
It's not workspace.
We could let Swami do it. He said no. Does that say start our meeting on it, or is that doesn't have, that's the end, you don't have to start. You have to share it.
Just take it, I can listen to you. Yeah.
Frank, I got the tickets.
You might want to announce that to the group also, Brahmananda.
Oh, yeah. Tuesday, tickets to the aquarium are on sale for $20. That's an unheard of discount for Georgia Aquarium. So we're taking the Swami and Frank and Violet's going with us as well. If anybody would like to join us, please join us.
What time do you do?
We are going to leave here by 9 a.m.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning, Swami.
Om
Sahana bhavatu, sahana bhunaktu, sahaviryam karavavahai, tejasvinavati tamastu ma vidvishavahai.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the divine being
Look over us lovingly as a mother and father.
May the divine being. May we have the strength and skill.
Art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Peace, peace, peace be unto us all.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
For those who do or don't know, I'm Swami C, or Swami Chidbrahmananda. And this morning I wanted to talk, always about things that are that are very special to me and that I'm very excited to share. The title this morning is What to Pack. And that came to me because I've kind of turned into a wandering sadhu of sorts in the last few years of my life, and I'm always packing and unpacking. And I've gotten pretty good at it now. I can get it done pretty fast. But I remember when I started, it was always that question of like, what do I take? What am I going to need? And I had to figure out what the weather was going to be, where I was going, how many days I'd be there, and whether there was a laundry facility or not like that. And, the things in my mundane life often inform my spiritual thought, because I'm kind of always mixing those things and always thinking about those things and joking as I'm, figuring out with Mother what to put in the suitcase. And I thought, what an interesting idea that, we're on a journey here, we're moving on, and having a destination of sorts, at least at some place during our practice. Sometimes all of that disappears. But, and so I put this article or this lecture together with that idea. I'm going on with my life here, moving along. What are the important things that I have to make sure that I have with me? Those things that are going to give me success. Swami Nikhilananda, said in a lecture back in 1936, boy, it's a power-packed little paragraph here. I could probably do the whole lecture on this little bit, but I want to share it. He says, man is divine by nature, either as a created in the image of God, or as his spark, or as one with him or her. The essential nature of man can never lose this perfection. There is no such thing as sin which can change the quality of the soul. The wicked action of a man may impose a veil upon his divine nature, but it can never destroy it. God exists in us as potentiality and possibility. An action is called good or moral if it helps us to rediscover this hidden divinity. And an action is called immoral or bad, which conjures up for us the appearance of the manifold. The experiences we gather at the physical, mental, and aesthetic level do not belong to our real soul. They may be called, at best, a mixture of truth and falsehood. Through this inscrutable ignorance, we behave as if we were corporeal beings. We have hypnotized ourselves into thinking that we are imperfect, that we are limited, that we exist in time and space, and indeed that we are subject to the law of causation. The aim of religion? To dehypnotize ourselves, to make us aware of our divine heritage. For us to go on our journey, there's this, that we have to have that knowledge that at the fundamental root of things, we're beautiful. At the fundamental root of things, we're holy, we're silent, we're peaceful, we're compassionate and loving. That we don't have to become these things. We don't have to build these things. And in fact, everything is already done. It's just a matter of where you place your awareness, where you place your attention. We see many things in our mind, and as long as we're living in the mind, right, then we can't live as ourselves. When we live in our mind, we live as the thought of ourself. And the thought of ourself is always consists of a view from outside in, right? Such an odd thing. Sri Nisargadatta points that out. He says the difference between a realized soul and a deluded soul is that a deluded soul always describes herself from the outside in, whereas the realized soul describes himself from the inside out. And that is the perspective of the world. He says the difference is that when a deluded person sees someone suffering, he sees someone suffering. The experience for a realized soul is that he suffers because he knows himself to be that man. He knows himself, the capital S self, to be the exact same in that person and in himself. And so he's broken down that view of egoism that's always chopping things up into pieces. That's the nature of egoism, the reason we have to get rid of it. As a matter of fact, egoism is the veil of Maya. It is what prevents us from seeing God in this moment, from recognizing the wholeness. It's the reason we're sitting here half bored and not in ecstasy. It's because our egos are dull and small and limited, restricted. We've seen all the corners and vestiges of egoism in ourselves all of our lives, but very rarely have we captured that vision of the moment, that vision of freedom, that vision of peace, that is this divine nature that can't be disturbed. You cannot be an evil person. You can be love forced through a limitation of thinking that it's a hungry body and a noisy mind, and expresses that love in service to the hunger of its own body, to the hunger of its own mind. But you are still that divine love that's being limited and contorted and pushed through the prism of egoism. And so our struggle is not to become better, not to become like something, not to attain something or to achieve something, but to return to something, to let go of something. In Suzuki's book, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, in the very first chapter of that book, he says, the Buddhist does not sit to realize God. The Buddhist sits to know that he is already realized. They say that realization is the only effect that has no cause. There is nothing you can do to realize God. There is nothing that you can achieve to attain the vision of God. It is not an attainment. It is not an achievement. It is not a goal. It is not a thing to be done. When we sit to meditate, we don't sit to do anything, because you are not the doer. And so if you sit to meditate, why do you sit there to try and keep your mind quiet, to try and focus on the mantra, to try and do this or try and do that, to try and stay awake? All of that is delusion. When you sit in your practice, you make yourself available to the divine, to the ultimate reality, to God, whatever name or description you want to use. The Holy Mother says in Chaitanananda's book, Sri Sharda Devi in her Divine Play, the Holy Mother says it's not the baby's job to change its diaper, that's the mother's job. What's the baby's job? To sit there and try not to roll off the table, while mother's changing its diaper. And so we sit to make ourselves available to the mother, to show us what we already are, to let us be aware of what we already are. And how does that happen? It pulls your identity out of your mind, out of the thought of you. As long as you exist as the thought of you, you exist among all the thoughts of your mind. That's where the noise and the change and the constant flow of distraction happens. But within you is also a heart. And in that heart is a shrine. And in our practice, we discover, it's uncovered for us, it's shown to us. It's not built, it's not achieved or constructed. It's shown, it's revealed as something that has been there for the millions of years that we have been looking through a mind, for the millions of years that we have been sitting in meditation, trying to know our nature, trying to find out what we are and who we are. And that inside you, the thing that makes you valuable as a person, the thing that makes you a spiritual seeker, is not how you're doing on the path. Not whether you're a pure person or an impure person, whether you're any of these qualities, but to remember and to place your knowledge within the heart where you are purity itself, where your wisdom itself, where your love itself. Now we'll always have a certain vestige or a little bit of a smidgen, as it were, of egoism. Ramakrishna says that the ordinary person can't really completely efface themselves of ego. And so what do? We try and thin that ego. We thin that veil so it's not an opaque veil over our head. It's a thinner veil. And we do that, first of all, by recognizing and trying to see and get a sense of what's inside of us, to find the shrine of the heart by backing into it. That's what neti is. You know, if you go looking for the shrine of the heart, you'll never find it. If you go looking for a fulfilled life, you'll never find it, right? That's not how it happens. When you look at something and make it a goal, it will become instantly unattainable for you. You'll never quite get there. You'll always be almost there. Right? So we don't go looking for God inside. We don't go looking for our realization inside. We don't go looking for who we are inside. We have to shut up inside. We have to just simply say, no, not that. No, not that. And just keep backing up and backing up. And at some point you'll stumble, fall backwards, and land in mother's lap. And you'll be like, ah. And it will last barely a moment for you. Because as soon as it happens, you'll try and look at it. You'll try and make it a subject of your observation. You can't do that because it is you. It is the one that's looking. It is the witness itself. And then you'll spend probably many months, if you're an ordinary person, maybe many years trying to get back to that flash of an experience you had when you were a brahmachari or when you first started meditating. That split second of a vision or an understanding that left an imprint on you. And you get frustrated. Why can't I find that? Why can't I have that back? Why is Mother so cruel just to give me such a little flash? But the thing is, it has never left you. It's just that once again, you placed your eyes on something in front of the senses and went looking for an experience. But being what you are, being itself, is not an experience. It's a manifestation. It's a spontaneous flow of light, a spontaneous flow of love and wisdom. There's no calculation. There's no thought at all within your mind. There's no thought necessary within your mind. If you're thinking, if you're watching a thought and not aware of watching the thought, you cannot be present. No thought can happen in the moment. There's not enough room for a thought in the moment. The moment is infinitesimally small and yet infinitely large at the same time. This moment can be that, or this moment be what we've never left, something that has no beginning and no end. As a matter of fact, this moment itself is God. That's why God's name is I Am. It's the present moment. This moment, experienced or not experienced, this moment as it is divine. This moment, if you could see it as it is and not as you think it is, would put you in ecstasy. You would fall out of your chair. Your mind could not contain what the experience was. Your senses, it would make you feel like you were trying to breathe through a stir stick. You know, there's just, the senses are just too small, the mind too limited, too bound, the ego too boundaried to hold what the moment you're in right now is. So we can hold on to this idea that we are ever free and ever pure and ever beloved of God, that we are not guilty, we are not shameful, we are not sinful, we are not any of those things. The ego is. The ego is a wretched place, a selfish place, a limited place, a small place that gets annoyed with people, gets angry, gets jealous, does all those things that we have to apologize for. That's ego space. And if you live in the thought of yourself, as opposed to being, not being yourself, just being, you can't see that and you get stuck. Way back in the Rig Veda, and I say way back because that's a very, very old scripture. I've read in places that it's one of the oldest scriptures we have available to us. One of the things it says in there is that the human body is the temple of God. One who kindles the light of awareness within gets true light. The sacred flame of your inner shrine is constantly bright. The experience of unity is the fulfillment of human endeavor. The mysteries of life are revealed. So within you is this shrine. You know, this shrine here is only an external manifestation of what should be an internal reality for us if we are seeing. And to be realized, we have to move our sense of self from here simply to hear. That's all that needs to be done. Stop using your thought, stop using your thinking to describe the world to you, to describe yourself to you, and just come here and be. Here there is no thought. This is before thought. Here there is no body. This is before body. And your realization sits here already complete, already done. All you have to do is move your awareness of self from here to here to know what that means. It's quite difficult in one sense because we're so accustomed to it being difficult. We've made a habit of living up here, of thinking about ourselves as a thought amongst thoughts. And we see that it's part of Western culture, as a Descartes. And when he sat there trying to find a fundamental truth, trying to find something that was true, that didn't depend on anything else that was true, even he got it flipped. He said, I think, therefore I am. The fundamental problem. He stated it very purely, but remained deluded. It's that I am. Therefore I think. It's not that I think, therefore I am. You have to drop that thought. You have to step out of the mind. Why? Because the mind is what contains time, space, and causation. Mind is what sets goals and achievements and things that you have to run after. Mind is what tells you that you're small, that you're hungry, that you're jealous, that you're angry, and then sets you on a quest to fix it. And the ego loves that. Because the ego is in charge of all quests. The ego is in charge of gaining all goals, running after all developments. But the heart is the center of peace and compassion and love. And how do you find that? You find that in the silence of yourself, by shutting everything down. Because you can only know who you are when you are being. What you come to know yourself to be cannot fit back in the mind. I can't tell you what you are. The scriptures can't tell you what you are. They can only tell you what you are not, right? So that which is obvious can become apparent to you. So we don't want to be anything. We simply want to be. And in the silence of that being, you know who you are, because nothing is telling you. And it's the pure, call it an experience. So at that point, it's not an experience. An experience means an external tapping or something. This is being. This is native. This requires nothing, no maintenance. And so you carry this temple within you. You carry this beloved within you. You carry pure love. That Sat Chit Ananda, the sages say. That within you, there is the only thing that motivates you. A pure love that goes out equanimously. Unfortunately, it hits the lens of a mind, and it shines through that lens and gets expressed through body. And that's where the confusion happens. That's where the colors come out, right? There was a sadhu that Sri Ramakrishna talks about that walked around with a chandelier crystal all the time. And he kept it in his hand all the time because it was his practice to always remember that he was a unity. He was white light before it hit the prism of the mind and body and came out as the multitude of colors that we experience in life. He always wanted to remember, I'm before mind, I'm before body, I am a unity, a one without a second. And so within the shrine, we begin to develop, hopefully with practice, hopefully with really, practice is another word for just surrender. That's the hardest thing to do because we're clutching so tightly to the things we need to surrender. So that's what's hard. Spiritual life is very easy. Spiritual life is what you are. It's fundamental isness. You don't have to work at being. You just have to move into being and stop trying to be you or to be something, right? But to move into that space. And when you come closer to that being, when that chasing stops, when that identity with the small and with the broken and with the ugly and with the shameful breaks, and when your habits stop and become purified and you begin to touch yourself inside the real you, you realize that every atmosphere of every holy place that you've ever experienced was only a distant echo of what is your natural state. What is in you right now, whether you see it here or not, whether you experience it now or not. You are your own temple, and you carry within you the sweetness of that atmosphere, the heaviness of divine love that feels like one of those weighted blankets over your shoulders, or a blanket when your mother's hugging you. The experience of that unity is the fulfillment of this life. You're finished when you've come to know that. Until then, you just keep training. Until then, you just keep trying all of the other things on, right? Trying to find everything else. So how do we enter into this? How do we find this temple? Saint Basil the Great writes in the Philokalia, the intellect, undistracted by external things, and not dispersed through the senses among worldly things, returns to itself, and from itself it sends to God by an unerring path. We discover the realm of God when the intellect turns and enters the heart. The kingdom of God is indeed within us. When man returns to himself, he feels with an uncontained longing the yearning for that pristine beauty which is found in the name and person of God. So when you let go of these external things, when you silence the thought, or at least separate yourself from your thought, right? And this is the very first part of our practice, is to get to know your inner world. It was only last year that I was reading that I was not the body. I mean, I've read that now for my entire Vedantic life. But it was only last year that I realized I had no idea what that meant, right? It's a simple statement, I'm not the body. But what does it actually mean to you? It means there's only three things that you can say about yourself. It means that you're allowed to say that I'm loving. You can say that. That's your nature. I'm wise. You can say that. And you can say, I am. Those are the only three things that are true about you. I'm angry. No, anger belongs to mind. You are not the mind. I'm hungry. No, hunger belongs to the body. And so going inside initially means sorting all of this stuff out. Go inside and find out what is the experience of body from the inside out, not from the outside in. What is the experience of body right now? It's like, oh, I feel my thumb rubbing the palm of my hand. Okay, well, abstract that. How is that information coming to you? How does it feel in the mind? What's the sensation of that? Where is it? Does it have a geolocation? Does it actually tell you where your hand is? Or do you have to cross-reference other things? Memory, perhaps, right? Ah, there's another clue. So the body and the mind are closely related, right? You smell pizza, the mind brings up a memory of pizza. The expectation arises and a desire is born for pizza, right? And so you see how the body affects the mind and the mind affects the body and how they talk to each other. And then you have to think, well, if I'm not this body and I'm not this mind, what's my relationship to these things? And you begin to see that all you can do is watch. That's all you can do, is watch the body and watch the mind. And so you see how they work and you see how they cooperate with each other. And then you watch how you get attached, right? You start to identify yourself. You'll smell pizza and say, ah, the body smells pizza. That's how you should say it. But you say, oh, I smell pizza. Oh, no, you don't. You're watching a mind experiencing pizza through a body. And it's important to use those words. I know that may sound silly, but it's very important to start talking that way. Because we stay deluded if we keep tying our eye to all these things that belong to body and mind, right? And so when you're sick, don't say, oh, I'm sick. Say, oh, my body's sick, When you're tired, don't say, oh, I'm tired. Oh, the mind is tired, and maybe the body's tired too, right? But always keep your eye separate. Always keep your eye disconnected from an identity with the body and the mind. And keep practicing that, and then it becomes harder and harder and harder to be engaged with the different things that the body and the mind are conjuring and putting together, right? I tell that story, and I tell that story quite often just because it means so much to me. I learned so much that day of that story of pizza, right? I don't know if you remember it or have heard of it. But the day was perfect. I was walking in the sun, enjoying perfection of the day. I'd just become a monk. I was living in San Francisco. You know, the sun was shining. It was perfect. And then I smelled pizza. And suddenly the day wasn't perfect anymore because I wanted pizza now. I smelled it and I wanted it. And I had to go and find money, you know, to get it. I was a monk, and in San Francisco, we didn't get any money. We didn't get any monthly allowance or anything. There was no money. And so I was in quite a pickle. I was like, well, how do I get that pizza? My life is ruined, all right? But I remembered that $20 that I got for Christmas from Swami, and so I walked back to the monastery, went to my desk, got that $20 bill, and went down and bought that piece of pizza. And then because I wasn't a watcher of mind and a watcher of body at the time, I sat down and I ate that pizza, enjoyed it, and said to myself, pizza made my day perfect. Because I had also forgotten that the day was already perfect until I had smelled pizza. And you see, a person who watches their body and mind is in the practice of knowing that they are not body-mind, can walk down on a sunny, beautiful day and say, this day is perfect, this moment is perfect. And then they smell pizza and they said, oh, the perfect has become even better. It's a perfect day with the smell of pizza in it. What a boon, right? They don't let the body and mind work their little magical trick of making you desire a piece of pizza. Just allow you to see that pizza is delicious and wonderful, and the smell it is wonderful, but it doesn't produce a need. It doesn't produce anything. It's just a part of isness. So we have to pull our identity away from body, pull our identity away from mind, get accustomed to watching and understand that we're only observing what's really the divine play, watching God. We discover that realm of God when our intellect turns toward the heart, comes down out of the mind, stops its calculating, stops its thinking. You know, when you sit there in meditation, one of the funny tricks of the mind that I've noticed is that it gives you meditation instructions while you're sitting there. Oh, no, don't think about that, right? And what you're doing at that point, oddly enough, is reinforcing the idea that you are mind, because you think it's you telling yourself not to talk. You telling yourself how to meditate. It's not. You're already meditating. You have never done anything but meditate. The self has been meditating for time immemorial, but only if you look at it from the perspective of mind. There is no time for the self. It has been sitting there perceiving and watching for 1,000,000 years. I remember the first time that occurred to me, I was in the shrine in Washington, D.C., and I was doing my meditation. I was feeling very shifty, you know, and I couldn't quite get into the meditation, and I kept looking at my watch, and, you know, 3 seconds had passed, and, you know, another half a minute, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be here forever. And I was feeling like that, and I don't know where those things come from, but when Mother decides to elbow you in the side, somehow she does it. And she just said to me, she says, you have been meditating for thousands and thousands of years. How is it that this moment seems so long to you? And I sat there and kind of pondered, oh my God, what a beautiful idea. I've never done anything but meditate. That's all I've ever done. God has been dancing in front of me, observed from every possible angle for millions of years. And I've just gotten tangled up. I haven't understood it at all. Return to that meditation. We love a good meditation. And you are that meditation. You're not an experience of it. You are that silence that you hope to achieve in meditation. You are that peace that passes understanding. And why do they say it's a peace that passes understanding? Because it's before the mind. It's native. It's not an experience. It's not a conjured experience. It's what you are. And so the greatest things that you enjoy about meditation and about the atmospheres in temples and loving your partner and holding your child, your favorite things that the senses dance with and the mind shows to you, are only reflections of that secret, silent self that you have always been, but have forgotten. Why? How can you forget yourself? In the same way that the mind stops smelling a rose after the fifth inhale, right? After the fifth inhale of the rose, the mind's like, well, okay, we can filter that out. That's sort of a white noise. And you can no longer smell the rose. That's what it is, the bliss that's within you. It's just a steady song of unchanging bliss. It's a contentment, right? It's not the excitement of a happiness. It's that peaceful contentedness of being. And long ago, your mind filtered that out as white noise, and you've been chasing happiness ever since. You've been chasing bliss ever since. So it's only in that silence of awareness when you suddenly hear what the mind blocked out, when you suddenly become aware. It's like the fourth time your mother yells at you to wash the dishes when you're a teenager, you know. First 3 times, nothing. Didn't hear a thing, right? But that fourth time, when you hear that certain tone of the voice and that sense, that certain nearness of a hand, you know you better get up and do the dishes at this very moment, right? It suddenly becomes aware, suddenly says, aha. And that's what these aha moments are, you know, those moments in meditation where that which the mind has turned to white noise suddenly becomes evident to you. That's why Swami Chidbrahmananda phrased it that way. So that which is obvious, meaning God, can become apparent to you. Right? God is all that you've ever seen. The less the thought of the body, the better. This is from Vivekananda in his lecture, The Powers of Mind. For it is the body that drags us down. It is attachment, identification, which makes us miserable. That is the secret, to know that I am the spirit and not the body, and that the whole of the universe, with all of its relations, with all of its good and all of its evil, is but a series of paintings, scenes on a canvas, of which I am the witness. When you return to that self in there, and I was sharing this morning in the kitchen with Jyoti and some others, that this morning in meditation that occurred to me for the first time that perhaps there is no change at all in this world. You know, that's what if the ultimate reality is that unchanging absolute, that means that all change that we see is unreal. And I was sitting there this morning as I was meditating and just watching the mind and watching my thoughts and watching the mind as it was trying to find the thought of Mother, trying to really visualize the presence of the divine within me. And I realized that there was this sensation of doing and this sensation of change. And I thought to myself, but nothing is changing and nothing is really being done. What I'm doing is moving my point of awareness around in there. And I thought, what if it's just my point of awareness that changes in this world? What if it's like reading a book, right? That book is nothing when it's closed and sitting there, but when you open it and you pick a point, and then you start moving that point, a story unfolds, you know. You begin to see action. You begin to see characters and people and buildings and castles and dragons and whatnot. Things that are not there, things that are not moving, only because you are moving your point of attention, right? And storing it up in the mind as you go along. And this world is exactly like that. You say there's a big statement, be here now, and we all think we know what that means. Oh, just be here. Just, keep my presence right in this room. Well, that's probably 90% of it. But that other 10% of it is stop thinking about where you are. Just be, right? And what happens is if we become aware of our point of attention moving across the page, then we can hold it there. We can just hold that letter T, and then we expand our window a little bit, and we see the whole world, right? And then we expand our attention and we see a sentence all at once, not read. And then we expand and we see the whole book all at once, manifested within, no change. And then we just keep expanding and expanding. That's why Vivekananda says all expansion is life. It's to sit there and find your focus, become aware of your awareness, as Sri Nisargadatta says. Place your awareness on awareness itself. And in that, everything becomes revealed. You suddenly are aware of everything all at once because you're not choosing a particular. But the thing of the way the game is put together is so odd. We see it at night when we dream. Right? You go into that dream world. That dream world is you, right? Obviously, we don't have to think about that too much, right? Everything in your dream is created by your own mind. Everything, the mountains, whatever's in there. But what do? You pick a point of perspective in that dream. You forget that the whole dream is you. You keep your attention on just the T, and you move that through the dream, and you watch the dream unfold, and it all seems external and foreign to you. But if you stopped and held that attention and then expanded it and realized everything in this dream is me, then all of the fear, all of the anxiety, all of the wonder, all of everything stops, and it becomes an expression. It becomes a manifestation, something that's happening, something that just is. And you know yourself to be both the observer and the observed simultaneously. This is the nature of what we are. This is how this seeming impossibility, this high philosophy of Vedanta, becomes obvious, becomes ordinary. Nikitas Stithatos from the Philokalia writes, "He who succeeds in attaining real prayer and floods his being with the love of the divine does not become a prisoner to his emotions, nor does he become attached to anything." And Ramakrishna talks about that. He says in the flood season, you can take a boat and float across all of the rice paddies. But when the season is dry, when you're not aware of that, the depth of God's love flooding everything everywhere, you have to walk on the berms to get wherever you're going, take those little points to get around. And that's the smallness of ego. That's what makes us think we're looking for something when we're actually swimming in it. It's like that fish looking for water. Water's not obvious to a fish. It's everywhere around it. Can't see it. It long ago forgot that it was feeling it, and so goes searching for water. Oh, where's the water? I don't see. Do you see any evidence of water anywhere? Not at all. And yet you're swimming in it. This is what the divine is. This is what that divine relationship is. You're swimming in the love of God. Right? It's everything you've ever seen, everything you've ever touched, tasted, heard, or smelled. It's everything. But you thought it to be something else if you thought about it at all. But chances are you just blocked it out as ordinary. Right? Blocked it out and thought it was ordinary. That's how one becomes an adult. By blocking out and seeing things as ordinary. You stop seeing the wonder. You no longer look at a tree and wonder at the fact that that is a portable solar power station that makes no noise. It's taken us how many thousands of years of human history to come up with a solar panel. And I'm afraid that a tree of solar panels would not be beautiful at all. But look at the glory, the wonder of this portable, silent, solar-powered entity that can flutter in the wind, makes no noise, puts off no pollution, actually puts off things beneficial to us. See it in a bird. The way that bird flies. I saw the other day this video of an owl. They were demonstrating that when an owl flies, the wings make no noise whatsoever. They had like 5 different birds fly by one of these super sensitive microphones, and all of them made a whoo, 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 but that owl flew by. There was nothing. Look at that owl has been flying for tens of thousands, maybe, I don't know, maybe millions of years, who knows? Maybe it was as big as a dinosaur once. But flying with such grace and such ease and such beauty. And then look what the flying of an ego looks like. Yeah. Stinky, exhaust flying out the back, all that nonsense. You see, we choose to live in a world of ego, the right angles of ego, I call it. The city with all of its dirt, with all of its danger, with all of its smells, with all of its overcrowded problems with pollution and whatnot. And then you step out into the woods, right? And what do you see? No right angles, no forcing into a will, but a harmonious working together of oneness. I was sitting there looking yesterday at the big stone mountain there, which that thing is fascinating to me. That giant Huge rock just sitting there, right? And the thing that was so beautiful about it is running down the side, all these different striations of color as the rain and the water and the dirt and whatever has worn away on it. You see, and in the world of God, decay and use makes things more beautiful. You know where else I saw that was in Rome last year. I went to Rome for the first time as an adult last year to doing a talk over there. And I was walking around that city, and that city is decayed. I mean, that city has been there for thousands of years. And you walk and you see these fountains, and you know, there's this one park, I guess it was called Caesar's Park or something, where there were all these fountains that had not been upgraded, changed, cleaned, replumbed since they were built, you know, in those days. And they just had all these weeds growing over them, but they were still running water, because the fountains in Rome are not recycled water. They're actually streams, and they're meant to be drunk from. You know, all those fountains you see in Rome, you can drink from them. And those little pipes that come out to pour them, if you plug the pipe, every one of them has a hole at the top that then it shoots up like a water fountain, right? That's fresh water in all of those fountains. But you go and you look at this decay, you look at the marble that it's worn off, and everything there, because it was made by a craftsman whose time was love, not money, who spent time creating something beautiful because that's what he was, and put all of that effort into that thing. Now 2,000 years as it's decayed and has broken and slowly fallen apart, it has maintained that beauty. Why? Because when you know that your time and your effort is love and not money, you create something that will decay like the stone mountain is decaying, something that will be beautiful through the entire process. This is what we are. This is who we are. Time is money. What a hideous and awful thing. That's why all of our new suburbs look like they fell off the back of a Home Depot truck. You know, you go down and you look at the new architecture downtown. You know, oh look, we put a big square of glass in. Isn't that fabulous? You know, but you go look at the old cities. You know, a thing when time wasn't money, when there was just a different ideal. And they spend so much time. You go into a church and you look at any of that ornamentation, you're like, how in the world can you afford something like this? You can't afford something like that. But when you create something beautiful, you sit there and you crochet a gorgeous Afghan, or you know, if you're me, you're crocheting it less than an Afghan, but crochet something. When you create something with love, when you create something out of yourself like that, you want to give it away. You love somebody to have that. You can't wait to give that to somebody. You don't sit there and think, God, I hope my mother pays me for that. You know, you're excited to give it to her because you've put yourself into it. And that's your nature. When yourself is in something, you want it to go. You want to set it free. You want to offer it. That's why karma yoga is not thinking about results, which is another way of thinking, not about payment, not about return. The thing itself, do it for its own sake. What does that mean? Do it for love. Do what you do because you enjoy it. That doesn't mean you have to love something first before you do it. That means that you do it and you don't think about anything else but the doing of it, and you invest yourself in it, which is what? To invest your love into it, your being into it. This is freedom. This is the walking away from desire. Nothing is needed. You can do everything this very moment if you sit there with your attention, with yourself, and invest yourself in it. Throw yourself into whatever you're doing. Leave nothing reserved for anything else. Be single-pointed. That's what what they're talking about, that single-pointed being, where your attention isn't wandering all over the place and seeing story, creating stories, some of it great, some of it horrible. Some of it intensely stressful, some of it peaceful. It won't be doing all of that. It will see the equanimity of the whole. The fact that the system as a whole, that God as a whole is the forest and not the intersection. Right? To understand this, to see it. Nikita goes on to say, my brother, pray with simplicity and peace. Pray with simplicity and peace. Calmly and plainly, like the gentle breeze, like your breath. Only concentrate all of your emotions, all of your will, around the holy name of the Lord, right? Because the name and the form are one and the same. When you say your mantra, what's manifesting? Well, you can say your chosen ideal. What lovely words those are. Who cares about chosen ideal? What you're manifesting is pure love, pure wisdom, the peace of being. Right? So you sit there and you do your whole focus on that name in the mind. And where is your attention though? Your attention is on acceptance, because surrender is acceptance. And you focus on the acceptance of this pure love that's you're slowly growing to understand. So why do I have to understand love? Well, because you've never seen it. You live in a world of egos. We just bounce around. All you see here is mercantilism, marketing of love, because time is money after all. So we don't know what pure love is. We have no idea what it is. We can't even really believe what it is. And actually, if you think about it, we shouldn't even have the notion of it, because it's not in this world. We've never seen it, never had an example of it. We only know it because we brought it here with us. It's behind the mind. It's behind the body. And it exists in you, all of your ideals. You've never seen any ideal in this world. Everything is imperfect. Everything is short of the goal. How is it possible that you have ideals, that you can think of perfect peace, perfect love? Because you brought them with you. And you've forgotten, because they're on your back and your eyes are only on the front. Right? Your attention has long ago left it. Stop. Lay down the burden and enjoy your practice. Your practice is not to attain these things. Your practice is not working for something. It's not a mercantile transactional deal between you and the Divine Mother done across a counter with a cash register. That's not it. That's not it. So when you sit, stop it. Stop thinking that you're going to do something that's going to earn you realization. Sit and assume your realization. That's what a surrender is. Assume your realization. And in that assumption, enjoy your realization. Open to your realization. Because yes, grace is free. Yes, grace is complete. Because this effort, because this goal has no causation to get there. Why don't we have it? Why don't we see it? Because an infinite grace requires an infinite humility. What is an infinite humility? It's an infinite opening, an infinite acceptance. And you know at your very core, I can't do anything. I'm only the observer. And you go to the mother with open arms like that. And mother says, here, there, it's all yours. It's always been yours. But you weren't willing to let go of your egoistic attempt to earn it. Your egoistic attempt to pursue it, to achieve it. And when you finally accepted that, then you were able to hold infinite grace. And I could give it to you. This is life. This is what we are. This is who we are. The Master says, what is your idea about the most essential thing in life? It says in the Gospel of Ramakrishna. Shirish, oh, God exists and He alone does everything. But the attributes we ascribe to Him are not the right ones. How can a man conceive of Him? His nature is infinite. Master, what need is there of your counting the number of trees and branches in an orchard? You have come to the orchard to eat mangoes. Do that. Be happy. The aim of human birth is to love God. Realize that love and be at peace. Sit in your meditation today and accept an infinite grace by understanding there is no effort you can make. You've been observing it and looking at and naming it and misunderstanding it for millions of years now, but you have never stopped meditating. Open to it, accept it, swim in it. Know that the water surrounds you, that the love of God is the light of this room, right? Eckhart Tolle had that realization that light and love were synonyms. They weren't separate things. And so when you're there in the dark room having your dream and you can see everything in your dream, that's the light of consciousness. Well, what is that consciousness? It's love. Your dreams are lit, illumined by love. This world is not illumined by suns and light bulbs. This world is illumined by the light of consciousness. This world is illumined by love. You're swimming in it. Stop looking for it. Accept it and be free. Let there be peace in outer space.
Let there be peace in outer space.
Let there be peace in the sky, on the earth, and in the waters.
Let there be peace in the sky, on the earth, and in the waters.
Let there be peace in the herbs, the plants, and the trees.
Let there be peace in the herbs, the plants, and the trees.
May the gods be peaceful.
May the gods be peaceful.
May the whole universe be pervaded by peace.
May the whole universe be pervaded by peace.
Let this infinite, universal peace prevail throughout my being.
Let this infinite, universal peace prevail throughout my being.
Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Shaima. Yes. Does anybody have any questions or comments or concerns?
I'm gonna give this to you, and I want to go in the other room.
All right. Hello, everyone online. Hello, Anna. All my friends are here. Wonderful. All right. Anybody have any questions or concerns? None at all? Yes, Ma.
Is there a difference in approach when you're sitting for meditation versus sitting for prayer? Because one of the things you mentioned was when you're sitting in meditation, it's not a transaction with the divine.
Mm-hmm.
Assume your realization and enjoy.
Yes.
But often we think when we're sitting in prayer, we are asking.
Yes. And it starts that way. You see, prayer is a process. And it starts as transactional, as we see God as other and we see ourselves, right? And so we sit and talk. Think of it as a marriage between two people. This is another one of my favorite memories, actually. I went to New York City, I guess about, I don't know, probably coming up on 10 years ago with a devotee. And they took me to the Museum of Modern Art there. And we had lunch in the cafeteria. And it was one of these cafeterias with melamine tables and tiled floors. So very noisy and clanking and lots of people moving and whatnot. And across the room, probably 3 tables away, I saw this very old couple, sitting there. And they both had one arm on the table, and their fingers were touching. And they weren't speaking, they weren't moving, they were eating, with their other hands, just with their fingers touching. And I sat there and just contemplated that relationship. And all of this was my projection, but I saw this couple that had been married for 60 years. They had already said all of their jokes. They had already done all of their witticisms. They had already gotten the other person's love. They no longer were trying to accomplish. They'd been retired for years. They'd enjoyed the museum. They're finishing their lunch. They're sitting in contentment and the company of one another, right? And so the process of that marriage, because there was a time when he was courting her, of course, all projection, courting her and trying to demonstrate to her that I'm the good man for you, I can take care of you, or whatever his story was and her story was. And then, they decided to get married, and then all that stress and turmoil and terror, they got married, and then they had the beastie little kids and then had to work through the horrors of teenage life. And then they finally pushed them out the house and shut the door and then missed them and became weepy for a while. Went through the whole process, and now they're sitting in contentment across the table. The kids are grown, taking care of themselves, doing what they're doing, and they're just enjoying being. That's prayer. So prayer starts with you trying to convince God that you're not horribly immoral, that you're not filthy dirty and guilty and terrible. And you work out that transaction, you start to believe, like the cat in the kitchen, little by little it comes out from underneath the table and will accept you just enough to swipe at you, and then you go on. So prayer is a process. It starts as transactional, but after a while you've become so familiar with that, you don't have to complete your sentences. You realize that, gosh, I don't have to say anything, that God is here and I can just open up and he can look in there and see everything anyway, so I don't have to work all that out. And then it goes even beyond that. You realize that God is such a companion that he's experiencing your life as your experienced life. And your thoughts themselves become prayer. They become an open sharing. You're always aware that your divine beloved is sitting there in that constant conversation of your experience, that everything you're doing to and with her or him. That every thought that's going through your mind is a statement or a request or a lament or an expression of joy. And then you stay in that state, and pretty soon, knowing that oneness is so intimate that there's not even a break of time before that awareness happens. And that's when you're sitting in the art cafe, just touching the fingers of God, content just to be, knowing that nothing can take that from you, knowing that nothing can rob you from that this is your nature, and it's on the other side of the gulf of the world of change. Nothing can reach you there. And you enjoy God. You enjoy being. So that's how they come together. So be wherever you are. Don't push it ahead of where you are. Your lover will run away if you ask them to marry you on the third date, right? So don't do that. Be where you are. Be content where you are, by accepting the fact that one day I'll be sitting across the table touching this person's fingers, content and happy, right? So accept it now. But be as you are and continue forward. And it's inevitable that you're going there. Everyone in this room has been bit by the cobra. I actually think everybody's been bit by the cobra, but certainly at least the people in this room. So you're on your way. Short-circuit it. Short-circuit it and just enjoy it now. Borrow on your future investment, as it were. All right.
I think, Swami, I think the hardest thing is sitting back and enjoying the ride. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Nothing about it.
No, definitely.
Whichever version of the divine you approach. For me, it's Divine Mother. She's around me at all times. She's right here next to me.
Yeah. But the only thing that makes it difficult is our constant distraction and story, our imagination.
Yeah.
Right? I grew up with a lovely mother. I love my mother, of course, but my mother was a worrier. I mean, a major worrier. We couldn't go on a hike without her thinking we could fall off every cliff, fall over every stone, end up in every cactus, And I remember one time as a teenager when I was sassy and mean to my mother, we were on a walk and she was screaming at my father because he was letting my younger brother get close to close to the fence at the edge of the cliff, right? And I just turned to my mother and I said, for crying aloud, if you're going to live in an imaginary world, why don't you live in one where your sons don't fall off the cliff? Why go around imagining this horrible possibility all the time of destruction waiting around every corner? Right? But that's what we do, is it not? Oh, what if I lose my job? Oh, what if this happens? Oh, what if they blah, blah, blah. You live in a world of imagination. That's why we want to be in the moment. To let go of that impetus, that thought of me that lives in a world of unstable, constant change, that's never secure and never knows what's coming, right? That's the mind. That's the nature of mind. And that's...
None of it belongs to me.
None of it. Well, none of it and all of it, depending on where you are. Yeah, if you're the experiencer, none of it belongs to you. When you come to know that you're both the experience and the experiencer, then that elation of freedom comes to you. Yes, sir.
So on an experiential level then, what exactly, I would like to go back to the title of your talk, and it says, what we pack.
Right.
So on an experiential, on a very practical level then, what is it that we pack? Is it the consciousness of the divine love? Is that what we live in every day, every moment?
Right. Well, it's there's a couple ways to look at it. What you pack is framed in the sense that you think you're going somewhere, right? This is going to be a journey until we realize it never was. So you have to take the idea that you are the temple of God, that what you're looking for is within you, right? You have to take that calmness and that knowledge that I'm the observer, that I'm not the doer. And then you have to take that knowledge that the fundamental truth of that reality is love and wisdom and being, right? And then at the final thing that you have to take with you is that final acceptance, right? That final acceptance. Now, the final realization is that you've always been traveling and you don't have to pack anything. You've got everything with you. You don't need anything. You don't have to go get anything. But until we have that realization and we believe that we're on a trip and we have to go somewhere, these are the fundamental realities you have to know. One, God is within you. Don't look out there. There is nothing in this world you can have. We talked about that the other day. The only thing you can collect in this world is a bucket of potting soil. A beautiful car you parked in the parking lot, potting soil in 60 or 70 years. A beautiful husband or wife sitting next to you, I'm sorry to say, potting soil. You know, every single thing, that wonderful dress, that wonderful ring, those big earrings, any of it, potting soil. Right? So understand the nature of the world that you live in. There's nothing out there for you to get. So that's why you have to remember God is in here. Everything you need is here. Potting soil is not going to help you. And so you stop looking and chasing and running after and collecting and trying to be successful and trying to, have your parents be proud of you and showing off for your children and setting an example for your neighbor. All that was nonsense. The dance, the tiresome dance of egoism. Right? So you have to let go of that. And you have to give yourself permission to accept the fact that you're complete, to accept the fact that you're enough. You have to be willing to know the grace and love of God to the extent where you can sit in front of that divine light and feel like you're fine. Feel like everything is well with my soul, right?
Like be the cat.
Yeah, be a cat, any cat, that's right. I'm totally detached, right? Accept it, open to it, and find your freedom in it. Live the dream knowing that you're dreaming. The story is yours if you want to play with the story, but don't be attached to the story. Play out anything that you want, whatever occurs to you, spontaneously in the moment. Sprout wings and fly. And you say, oh, that can only happen in a dream. Well, you're not listening to the sages, right? My favorite saying of Jesus, say to this, if you have faith the size of the mustard seed. And I didn't know what a mustard seed was till I became a Vedantan. But if you have faith the size of that mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, get up and throw yourself into the sea. And Jesus says, I tell you the truth. This mountain will get up and throw itself into the sea. So when you let go of egoism, this world becomes a piece of clay in your hand. You can throw mountains in the sea if you want, right? Dream knowing that you're dreaming, and the dream will play for you instead of you having to play for the dream, right? That's the whole meaning of I am not in Alameda. Alameda is in me. I am not in this dream. This dream is in me. I am the dreamer. I am not the dreamed. Right? All right. We better go. So I think there's potluck
There is.
next door.
I really enjoyed the music. Any chance you could give us one more performance today?
Yes, so I have to find something real quick to play. I didn't bring my music book. Yeah, I'll do Wonder of Wonders from last night. All right. So I'm going to play a song and then we'll shut down the connection. Let me put this over. I don't know where that is. That's it. All right. If you want to go, please feel free to go. You don't have to sit and listen to me sing this song. This song was translated by Swami Chidbrahmananda at the San Francisco Center many years ago. And I find it to be incredibly beautiful. So if I'm not successful in convincing you of that, know that it was a beautiful song before I sang it.